Well, voters in California's 5th Congressional District are getting a closer look at some of the candidates hoping to represent them in Washington. The newly redrawn district covers much of Gold Country as well as parts of the Central Valley and Sierra Nevada. It now includes parts of El Dorado and Stanislaus County and all of Amador, Calaveras, Mariposa, and Tuolumne counties. KCRA 3's Brandy Cummings spoke to the top two candidates about the issues shaping the race.
These are the two leading candidates in the race to represent California Congressional District 5. Tom McClintock is the Republican incumbent who was first elected to Congress in 2009. He serves on the House Judiciary, Natural Resources, and Budget Committees. Michael Masuda is a Democrat. He's an engineer and has worked at the U.S. State Department as a foreign affairs officer. We start with the issue of water access.
What specific federal action do you support to secure long-term water reliability?
We are not going to solve our water shortages until we return to that era of dam construction and aqueduct construction that was set aside 50 years ago because of environmental laws that made their construction endlessly time-consuming and ultimately cost-prohibitive. Those same laws, by the way, are interfering with our ability to successfully manage our forests to keep them fire resilient. And we're making progress now, big progress, to change those laws.
We need to make sure that our infrastructure is up to date and it's upgraded. Conduct a study to see how much water is leaking and then put money into actually upgrading our infrastructure, addressing those leaks. That's like the near term thing. The next thing we need to do is continue encouraging groundwater banking, right? We have to make sure that in those dry years that our farmers have a store of water that we can pull from out of the ground, but during those really dry seasons. When we are in the wet seasons, right, we want to store that water.
Wildfires, they're obviously a consistent threat in the district. What do you believe the federal government should be doing differently to prevent and respond to them?
The first thing we need to do is start investing up front. We need to look at the risk that wildfires pose and start doing the work before fire season hits. So much of the money that we put into addressing wildfires is after they happen, in suppression and in recovery. We should be putting more money up front to reduce the risk, to build like fuel breaks and do prescribed burns, help with home hardening and defensible space. And if we can do those things, we can help protect communities. We can reduce the risks on homes so we can drive down the price of insurance. And, when a fire does break out, that CAL FIRE and other federal firefighters, local firefighters, that they have a better chance of protecting our communities because we've done all that work up front.
We've lost more than a quarter of our national forests in the last 10 years to catastrophic fire. And we know how to manage them, get back to the forest thinning projects that work. Now, we were able to do that in the Tahoe Basin. My bill was incorporated into the WIN Act of 2016. It cut through the environmental red tape that was preventing us from managing our forests. It increased the treated acreage by threefold. It increased the timber yield off of the federal lands in the Tahoe Basin from 1 million board feet a year to 9 million board feet a year. And that's what saved the city of South Lake Tahoe from the Caldor fire. The fire hit a tract that had been treated under that new authority. It laid down, and firefighters were able to put it out.
What's one concrete policy that you push through to lower costs for people living in the district?
Republican policies of low taxes, light regulation, energy and resource development all create greater opportunities and lower costs for consumers. The greatest manifestation of these policies in this Congress was the Big Beautiful Bill. As a senior member of the Budget Committee, I had a hand in putting that bill together. It not only prevented the biggest tax increase in American history, it also provided tax relief, necessary tax relief for working families, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, effectively no tax on Social Security.
Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to end the chaotic tariffs and these foreign wars, which have driven up prices for everybody. But beyond that, we need to start taking apart each of these different sectors piece by piece, right? Why is housing so expensive? Well, it's because we haven't built enough housing. But that's going to be very different than, why the cost of groceries are high. And we need to start dissecting these things sector by sector by sector and working together, federal, state, local government, to drive down these costs and make sure that people have an affordable, can afford to live in our communities.
Tell me how you will represent your district's needs over the national party agenda.
Well, I'm focused on solving problems. It doesn't matter what party you are part of. If there are good ideas that respect people, that treat people fairly, and that might work, I think we should take a look at it. And we should be willing to reach across the aisle to find those viable solutions. No single party has all the best ideas, and we need to start recognizing in this country we have to work together in order to move this country forward in a better direction.
I don't serve the national party agenda. I serve fundamental principles of free market economics. I believe in those uniquely American principles of constitutionally limited government, individual responsibility, and individual liberty. That's what I have always campaigned for. That's what I've always fought for in both the legislature and in the Congress. And that's what I will continue to do as long as the people will allow me.
I'm Brandy Cummings, KCRA 3 News.
So there are a total of 4 candidates in the race for District 5. You heard from the incumbent Republican Tom McClintock and also Democrat Michael Masuda. You heard from him. There's also Mike Barsley as well as independent candidate Dan Stroud.